Imagine you were visited by God himself one day, and he told you all about a beautiful place you could one day go to, where you'd meet a soul destined to be entwined with yours forever as your partner. Now, imagine the same God telling you that this place was none other than the digital world of Iliad, and that you'd be able to have your own Digimon partner. Now, imagine your shock as God explains he made a grave mistake. When assigning your Digimon partner, a new chapter of the 100 Girlfriends is released, and God absentmindedly wrote 100 where your Digimon partner should have been. Thus, you begin your adventure across time and space as an agent of Adamus, alongside your not quite 100 girlfriends in the form of Digimon. Okay, let me explain the concept. I plan on playing Digimon Story Time Stranger with one Digimon for every one of Aijo Rentaro's girlfriends in a permadeath run on Mega Plus difficulty. Apart from that, it's just normal challenge run restrictions, like not being able to use items in battle, although being on Mega Plus already takes care of that, and banning certain moves such as Reflect Physical and Reflect Magical. The final restriction will be about evolution. See, because this is New Game Plus, and you already start with great stats as well as lowered evolution requirements, it would be easy to keep everyone in their final forms. But I wanted something more challenging. In my challenge, my girls will only evolve if they manage to prove themselves in combat. What proving yourself means is obviously up to me, but unless I'm satisfied with having used them in their current form, they will not get permission to evolve. Also, on a final note, all the final evolutions of these girls were hand-picked as the Digimon I thought best resembled them, meaning not all of them will be Mega or Ultra levels either. With all that stuff out of the way, I believe it is time for us to tackle the game's story. As we start the game, we are greeted by an image of a world tree, as well as several shadows standing around, and a message about atoning for one's sins. We are greeted with a character select screen, where you get to pick your name and gender, with your surname always being Yuki regardless of your choice. We go with the male character, and I've tweaked his appearance a little bit so that we can truly call him Rentaro. Before you start wondering, yes, this video will go in extreme granular detail about the plot of the game, so if you haven't played and you care about spoilers, now is the time to stop watching. After we finish setting up your character, we find ourselves in the middle of a theater, being greeted by a young girl with purple hair and glasses. She beckons us to take a seat and enjoy the show, as she plays a movie that feels strangely prophetic. We find ourselves in Shinjuku, looking at a big screen that is airing an anime called Agent Alpha. Or we can begin to wonder why our whole getup is so similar to the characters of that show. However, we are contacted by a young woman in our communications device. This is the operator, and her job is to explain where our job is, which in this case happens to be to track down and deal with anomalous phenomena. She gives us a set of coordinates to head towards and says it is imperative that we remain in low profile during this mission, for we are an agent of Adamus, a very secretive organization. In keeping with the theme of discretion, I've decided to change my clothes to a simple plain white t-shirt, so as to attract as little attention as possible. With that bit out of the way, we make our way to the coordinates set by the operator, where we find ourselves face to face with an enormous wall, surrounded by a huge crowd of people. The operator explains that periods of civil unrest tends to follow a big anomaly, and we should investigate this area further if we wish to prevent something big from happening, like famine or war. After making our way through the crowd, we hear a massive noise, and a small tremor catches us. The operator explains that she was able to track down the location of the anomaly based on the video footage from 8 years ago. According to the operator, the videos themselves were deleted, but the comments remained, which gave credence to this being a real event and that it occurred on the other side of the walls. With that information in mind, we delve into the subway of tunnels, seeking a way to the other side of the wall. It is then that the operator gives us our first side mission. Someone has requested aid, and despite not knowing who it is and never having met said person, they were already authorized to make contact with our Digivice. The secondary mission is to find and rescue that person to the best of our abilities. However, we need not go alone. Reinforcements have already been preloaded in our Digivice, and we will use them to the best of our abilities to help deal with those hostile Phase Electrum life forms, or Digimon, who reside in the tunnels. As we enter combat for the first time, I will explain the quirks of both Mega Plus difficulty, as well as combat in general for those who don't know how either works. The first thing to keep in mind for combat is that each Digimon has strengths and weaknesses. Every Digimon has a type, with 7 available types for them to belong to. Out of those, the 3 most important ones to remember are Data, Vaccine, and Virus. These 3 are important because they interact with one another in a rock, paper, scissors kind of way, with Data beating Vaccine, Vaccine beating Virus, and Virus beating Data. Now, with all that said, one of the quirks of Mega Plus difficulty is that every enemy has at least 2 stats maxed out at 999, and every other stat being pretty strong by itself to begin with. In this challenge, I will start at level 1 with all my girlfriends, and the way I prepared their stats was that they had a total of 10,000 blue stats to distribute wherever they wanted, which means no one could be perfect at everything. You could be good at 2 things at most. Now that that's out of the way, let's take a look at the actual fight. I open with Yakuzen Kusuri, Nemui Nemu, and Futate Eru, with Eru being the only one who's fast enough to outspeed the opponent. I use that speed to switch her out to Haraga Kurumi in order to give Kurumi a turn at the top of the turn order. This tagging in and out to manipulate the turn order is going to occur a lot, and it's a very important part of my strategy going forward. Haraga Kurumi is known as a Great Embrace Healer, or an Over-Healer for short. What that means is that she can heal people past their maximum HP, giving them a buffer of health to work with, and that is precisely why I wanted her to act turn 1. Haraga Kurumi uses Aura to overheal everyone in the field, which makes it much easier to survive the area of effect attacks that Gotsumon throws at us. Next up, Yakuzen Kusuri does what she does best and poisons her opponent with Venom Trap. This is also going to be a running theme in this run. Normal mob fights take ages to resolve, so having someone to poison the enemies makes it go by much faster. The next few turns are what I like to call the setup phase, which is where my Digimon in the front row, who all have excellent defenses but lack offensive capabilities, begin casting buffs in the back row units. In this case, on Zetsuboda Miru, since she's a powerful physical attacker who also happens to be a virus type, and therefore strong against data types like Gotsumon. While they are buffing the back rows, Yakuza Kusuri spends her turn using Hate Charge, a move that makes it so that if the enemy uses a single target move, it is guaranteed to aim for whoever used Hate Charge. This way, we can guarantee that Kusuri tanks the hit, while my squishier attackers pick off the enemy stragglers. Finally, Haraga Kurumi switches off to Zetsuboda Meru for the not quite so final blow, since Meru has to attack twice to defeat the Gotsumon, even with her fully buffed stats. I will not go into this much granular detail on every mob fight, but trust me when I say this, every random encounter feels about as threatening as a boss fight. With that fight out of the way, we can finally use the Digimon tab in the Digivice. And so, I will show you what the stats of my girlfriends have, so we can be on the same page about them. Nemu Nemu has a lot invested in both of her defenses, as well as her HP, making her a powerful tank as well as a decent healer. She has the Soothing Song personality ability, which gives everyone a small recovery in SP at the beginning of the turn. Zetsuboda Meru has a decent amount of invested in both defense and HP, as well as a lot of attack, making her a very good option to attack physically strong enemies, since she can potentially survive a hit or two. She has the first in line personality ability, which guarantees she will always attack first in the match no matter what, which is perfect if you want to use that opportunity to pivot into a slower unit that needs to attack quicker. Yakuza Kusuri is probably the star of the show here, with an almost capped defense stat and a huge spirit stat as well, making her the undisputed best tank, and of course the best user of Hate Charge in the crew. Their personality ability is called Prankster, which I believe makes status effects more likely to affect the enemy, but I could be wrong about that. She has an item called Damage Down, which makes it so that any damage she takes that is less than 10% of her health becomes 0 damage instead. Inda Karane is a very fragile girl, with 0 points invested into either defensive stat, and everything she has being invested into attack and speed with a little bit on HP and SP. She is going to die if anyone so much as breathes on her, but she's my strongest attacker option in the game so far. Her personality ability is Extra Strikes Tech, which means that when an extra strikes happen, a mechanic that I'll explain later, she gets to attack the enemy 3 times instead of 2. Haraga Kurumi is basically a flipped Yakuza Kusuri, with a massive magical resistance and a decent defense stat. What makes Kurumi special is her massive healing capabilities, as well as her previously explained personality skill, Great Embrace, which allows her to overheal any ally by up to 200% of their max HP. Tate Eru is a very fast, surprisingly bulky unit with only buffs for her attached skills. Her personality ability Hustle Cry makes it so every buff she gives to an ally lasts for 5 turns instead of 3, meaning significantly less time reapplying buffs and a lot more time simply wailing on the opponent. With those 6 by my sides, nothing will stop us from reaching our destination. I will skim over the next boss fights, since it's mostly always using the same strategies: pivoting, overhealing, poisoning the targets, buffing the back rows, and then going all out with attacks. I will, however, bring out the highlights of the fights we've had in this tunnel. After the 3rd fight on the tunnel, you unlock the ability to use something called Digi Attack. This is a preemptive strike that gives you 1 free turn at the beginning of the fight, meaning every fight that can use this from now on will be significantly easier. With the Digi Attack, I'm able to set up turn 1 without needing to pivot nearly as much. In a fight against the Koromon, which is a simple baby Digimon, I banked on Inda Karane hitting an attack that had a 95% chance to hit, but she unfortunately missed. And since Yakuza Kusuri hadn't used Hate Charge on that turn, the enemy was free to attack whomever they wanted. And just like that, they used their special technique Bubble on none other than Inda Karane, which would have killed her if I hadn't used Safety Guard on her first. This is going to be a very important part of things to come. Safety Guard is a spell that guarantees you'll survive with 1 HP if you receive an otherwise lethal blow. Karane could not have taken the hit even from the most feeble of babies. She would need to constantly be under Safety Guard if she wishes to stand any chance against the enemies going forward. With that knowledge, I moved forward, always being careful to always have safety guard on Inda Karane if I ever wanted to deploy her. She's very important to the team and I absolutely cannot afford to lose her in any way. Fast forward a bit and we learned from the operator that Digi attacks can also destroy part of the environment, making it easier for us to cross a bunch of debris. Once on the other side, however, we come across the anomaly we were sent to investigate. A huge blue dinosaur with metal plating all over its body. The monster gives chase and we're forced to run away in terror. Just as we are reaching a dead end, however, a mysterious girl appears and shows us a good hiding place. We jump over to her and manage to take her hand just in time, right before the monster destroys the place we were just in. With the monster giving up pursuit, we were finally able to talk. The girl asks if he is with us or if he went ahead. She acts incredibly familiar despite never having seen her before. As we press her for information, she says a war is supposed to break out in the Tokyo Metropolitan Building, and that we are there to stop it. We are then contacted again by the operator, who says she could have been affected by an anomaly. I have to keep an eye on this girl. Together with her, we delve through the tunnels and find our way outside, in the other side of the Great Wall. Now, there's a boss fight coming up, and while I already explained my team, this fight will require very specific strategies if I want to win without any casualties. Let's see how it develops. As we go outside, we see a grim scene, with a completely destroyed cityscape. The monster from before threatens to attack us, but right before he does, a mysterious white being lands in from above to help us in this boss fight. The strategy here is simple. I need to use Haraga Kurumi to overheal my team, since the boss is coded to always use an area of effect attack on turn 1. But Kurumi is too slow. So I use Zetsubo Dameru's first in line skill to swap places with Kurumi and have her overheal the gang. The next attack is coded to be a single attack in one of my units, which means that it would be very convenient for me if I knew which one he's attacking, so I'd be able to support them. Luckily, Yakuzen Kusuri has Hate Charge, which guarantees the enemy will go after her. With Nemui Nemu's Safety Guard guaranteeing Kusuri's survival, there's nothing to fear from the next attack. The mysterious figure who flew in uses one of their signature moves, Grey Sword, which deals mild damage and lower the opponent's defenses. Next turn, the boss is coded to always use a very high power attack, but he always aims towards the mysterious figure, so we have nothing to fear from this one. And finally, the final turn, before the boss can even move, the mysterious figure uses their other special technique, Garuru Cannon, instantly killing off the boss, winning us the fight. Then, as quickly as he came in, the figure flies away. The war has started. The operator explains that the creature is one of the biggest, most powerful anomalies we've ever seen to date, and urges us to stop this war at all costs. And I will. I will stop this war. It is my duty as a boyfriend to destroy any threats to the peace that my girlfriends could wish to have. Let's do this, girls. Towards the top of this building. Let's stop this senseless war.